So first, let's start out just by defining what zero trust is.
Yeah.
And let me warn you that there is a lot of word salad in this presentation, because if you read NIST or Zscaler, which is a very good, very public company that specializes in zero trust, or any of the others, you get a lot of buzzwords and not a lot of meat. So we're going to try to eliminate some of those buzzwords and define them as we go. So zero trust is an evolving set of cybersecurity paradigms. What that means is that there is no out-of-the-box solution for this. It's changing.
Yeah, we're talking about bleeding edge.
Right.
You ask one party and their definition might be different from another party. And that's part of this. I think we can all agree that on what it's trying to achieve, but how we're getting there is still a work in progress.
So we're moving from static network-based perimeters to focus on users, assets, and resources. And what that means in the real world is that when your network was set up, you probably set it up like a medieval castle with a big moat around it. Maybe you put alligators in your server room. That's always a great idea. But the whole idea is that we're going to keep the outside out, and whatever happens inside, which makes a lot of sense. The problem with that is that once the bad guys are inside, well, it's like something out of Game of Thrones. You've breached the castle walls, you're in control.
Right.
Zero Trust's approach is a lot more like a neighborhood where each individual house has its own kinds of defenses. So it breaks it all out so that you can actually decide what is safe and what isn't safe.
Yeah, it's like your own personal castle, like a neighborhood of those castles, modern day.
Zero Trust assumes there's no implicit trust granted to assets or user accounts based solely on their physical or network location, which is to say, you plug into the wall. Currently, you're plugged into the wall. You have everything. Zero Trust says, yeah, who are you and what do you need? And we'll get into a little bit more about how it does that later. Zero Trust architecture uses Zero Trust principles to plan industrial and enterprise infrastructure and workflows. It is very much related to the workflows. It started in 2010. John Kindervag, an analyst at Forrester Research, coined the term, which was an idea that an organization shouldn't trust anything inside or outside its perimeters. That the company has to verify everything that tries to connect to each individual asset before it grants access, regardless of location. Doesn't matter if you're coming in from the outside or in from the inside, we still need to verify who you are and whether you actually need access to that asset. It defines access at every level of your company. Access needs to be granted for information to be viewed, edited, or accessed in any way. Now, I can hear you. You're thinking, isn't that why we have permissions? And the answer is yes, but permissions are often overly broad. This is done at a network layer. It says who you are matters to the network, so it therefore uses that information to determine what you need.
Yeah, there are a lot of different approaches to really have to come together in a true zero trust approach, including even the application layer. You have the network layer side, the application layer, application level filtering, tying that into an identity provider, all of this. There's a lot of pieces to this to consider. And of course, we'll get more into that too.
The important thing about this is that last sentence. If a breach does occur, and we say when, if, we're hopeful for if, this should limit the amount of information available to the attacker, because you might get one piece of it because you got the password and the credentials, et cetera, for one thing. That doesn't break everything.
Right. Maybe you were able to impersonate one person using one app that has access to one view of the data. Maybe they only have read-only access, and that's all they'll ever get because they can't pivot from there. That's the hope.
So the foundations of zero trust: never trust, always verify. Assume your asset can be breached, which is something we say a lot. Apply least privileged access. So you only get as much access as you need to do the job.